There's some still pending races to be determined, and not all of them were as easily won as Jim Jordan's was. Congressman Jim Jordan from Ohio. Watched a rally with him just the other night. He took his handily. Not everyone can say the same. He joins us now on the phone. Congressman, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us, and congrats on your victory.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be with you. And I do think we're going to get to the majority, and looks like it's going to go to a runoff in Georgia to determine who's going to have the majority in the Senate. But I learned a long time ago, winning beats losing, and if we win and we win the House and the Senate, that is overall victory. But I'm like you. I think all Americans are frustrated. You know, back before we had all the high tech world, we seem to get results by 1 in the morning on election night. And now that we got all this technology, it takes forever. It takes days and weeks sometimes. So I've yet to figure that one out. But I think we got to look at the positive here, particularly in Florida, Dana. Florida was a victory for freedom, for standing up for people's liberty. We had some great candidates down there who were part of the Freedom Caucus, like Anna Paulina Luna. She won strong, and she had millions spent against her. So I think there are some real bright spots as well. But the brightest spot is it looks like we're going to take the House and have a great chance of winning the Senate also. And
it's going to be by a lot tighter margin, though, than we had anticipated. And I know a lot of people talked about the polling. I actually don't really honestly think the polling was all that wrong, especially when I looked at some of these tighter races. But I think a lot of voters, and we're talking with Congressman Jim Jordan, I think a lot of voters were expecting McCarthy to have been handed a mandate last night, and he wasn't. So, I mean, at least in my estimation, what do Republicans, what do they have in the House? I mean, again, I realize stuff is still coming in. It's not going to be by the sizable margin that we had planned on, though.
Right. I think that's probably accurate. I do think, though, if you look at it, Democrats ran away from Joe Biden. A bunch of Democrats ran as Republicans. I mean, here in Ohio, for example, Tim Ryan tried to convince the whole state that he was a Trump Republican. He spent millions of dollars all summer long, and now the people got the facts and the truth in the end, and that's why they supported J.D. Vance. But I also think sometimes we may have lost some races just because, maybe our candidates didn't work as hard as they needed to. Who knows? I think voters overall, though, want to be sure that the person that they're going to vote for is got their best interest at heart, is going to go to Washington and going to fight for them and do what they said. And in cases where we had folks like that, they won, and they won strong. But I think of my good friend Scott Perry in a tough race in Pennsylvania. Now think of what Scott's been through. He's been called everything. It's a swing district. The FBI's taken his phone, unconstitutionally taken his phone. He's been called all kinds of names, millions of dollars spent against him. But he worked his tail off. People know he will do what he said, and he wound up winning by 10 points in a tough seat. Those are the kind of candidates who came through last night in a strong way. But, again, I keep coming back to the good news is I think we're going to win the House, and I think we're going to win the Senate, too.
Yeah.
We'll have to go into overtime to get that one.
Yeah, the Senate one, that's going to be interesting. I feel like so much of it hinges on Adam Laxalt in Nevada, and then that's going to determine, I think, how hard people play ball in Georgia. I don't know if we get to 53, maybe 52. We're talking with Congressman Jim Jordan. One of the big takeaways that in looking at this, and granted, there's smaller margins in the House, but I think that there were a lot of inroads made, particularly for Hispanic voters. Whether you look at some of the victories in South Texas, I know Mayra Flores didn't win her race, but the fact that she was as competitive as she was is huge. The fact that, I mean, you just mentioned Anna Paulina Luna, who was on with us. You had Ron DeSantis in Florida, who walked away with he carried the Hispanic vote. That is a huge shift. And I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that because, I mean, obviously, the Republican Party is the big tent party, but with that comes the split ticket problem. We got to change the strategy up, and how are we going to be able to handle all of this? Because we want to have we love having, you want as many people as possible, but we get more people who are ideological and not political. They're not looking at party strategy. They're just looking at ideology. And I totally get that, but that is hard to campaign to. How do you address it?
I think that the fundamental way you address it is you let voters know you're fighting for them. Like voters, the Hispanic voters know that the left has went completely crazy. They control the Democrat Party. What was it? A survey 2 months ago said 55% of Democrats don't think America is the greatest nation in history. How can that be? So Hispanics sure think it is. They came here because they wanted to chase their goals and go after their dreams and have their family prosper. so they see that. So I think the way you communicate is, we're fighting for you. We're going to fight for the things you care about so that your family has an opportunity, so that your kid has the best education. I said this months ago. I said, don't vote for any candidate who's not for school choice. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat. Don't vote for them. Because if they're not, if a candidate doesn't believe that moms and dads know what's best for their kids' education, for goodness, and they think some bureaucrat in D.C. or in their state capital does, give me at least a parent knows their name, for goodness sake. So, those kind of fundamental things are how we attract voters and I think be more unified, fighting for the things they care about.
Right. And looking at talking with Congressman Jim Jordan, a lot of people are thinking that the way that everything unfolded last night means that Kevin McCarthy isn't secure and going for House leader. Are you rethinking because I know you weren't really, I think, set on challenging that. Is that something that you're now reconsidering, considering the performances last night?
No, I think, look, I fell along. The guy who gets you to the Super Bowl, even if you have to go into overtime in the championship game to get there, should get to coach the game, and I think that holds. I think Kevin did a good job over the last several years of holding our team together, dealing with the Democrats. I always point to the impeachment a few years ago in 2019 when the Democrats did their crazy impeachment of President Trump. The conventional wisdom, Dana, was every Democrat was going to vote to impeach the president in the House, and a bunch of Republicans were going to join him. But what happened in the end was just the opposite. After we worked hard, got the truth to the American people, dug in there, every Republican voted not to, and a bunch of Democrats joined us, and one even switched parties. So, I think he's held our team together. And, like I said, the coach who gets you there gets to coach the game.
Yeah, we're talking with Congressman Jim Jordan. This is a weird election. And it's some of the stuff that I'm seeing coming in, especially in Colorado. Like, I'm looking at Colorado's 3rd Congressional District, Lauren Boebert. I don't know if she's going to pull that off. I mean, she's been trailing. And
I don't know either.
Yeah, and it's there are people who are voting against her. I was going through the weeds on it a little bit. What are you attribute this to? What are your thoughts on all of this? Because she's not the only seat.
No, I don't know. Now there's some seats like Yvette Harrell, who's a great member. She's got such a gerrymandered seat. The Democrats went after her. It's a really tough seat, and she worked her tail off, and she's just down by less than a point. I don't know if she's going to pull it out. I hope she does. So sometimes and she worked hard. She's a great member. So sometimes it's just the nature of the district. I don't know in Lauren's situation how much that district changed. I've been out there and campaigned for her. I thought things were good like a year ago when I was out there doing a event with her team. So I don't know. Let's hope she pulls it out. Let's hope Yvette pulls it out. I do think we're going to win a number of those seats in Arizona that where our candidate was behind. I think Schweikert's going to come back, and some others are going to come. I think Eli Crane's already won. He was a great candidate. And going to be a great member. So we're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, and the big elephant in the room, the direction and leadership of the party. I know that it's kind of hard to do the post-mortem when the body on the table is still twitching, for the lack of a better way to put it. And we're still waiting for stuff to come in. But a lot of people are pointing to what DeSantis has done in Florida. I know that there's some tension there between Trump and DeSantis. Maybe it's something that you don't want to immediately get involved in, but we're going to have that conversation sooner rather than later. And it looks like it's going to come sooner. I wanted to get your thoughts on this because, I think that a lot of people have some accountability with what happened yesterday, and there are some clear and distinct measures. But what does this say to you about Trump's involvement in the party? I know that you're a big supporter of the former president. I know he was out there with you in Ohio at the rally as well with J.D. Vance, and that was a win for him. Tell me your thoughts on this, because my fear is the right is going to destroy itself before 2024, and then we're going to be locked into complete and utter breakdown in America.
Well, let's hope that didn't happen. But President Trump was, as you said, here in Ohio on Monday night, did just a tremendous job, amazing speech. He's the leader of our party. I think that's obvious. He's done it. I don't know that we've ever had a president in history who did more of what he said he would do, and he got it done. So much done with everyone in that town against him. Every Democrat was against him. Everyone in the press was against him. Half the Republicans, all the bureaucracy. So he's the leader of the party. But Ron DeSantis obviously has done an outstanding job in Florida, and what happened there last night was just amazing. And I always point out that there were 9 of us who formed the Freedom Caucus 7 years ago, and one of those original 9 was Governor DeSantis. So we appreciate his work as a governor, but President Trump is the leader of the party. I think that that in his speech on Monday night, I think showed just what a leader he is.
Is everybody all ready to pitch in and if some of these come to runoffs, or what is that? It looks like you're not going to have any rest going into the holiday season, Congressman.
Well, it was the same 2 years ago. I remember, the day after the election, you're like, what's going on? And then, the next month I spent 3 days in Georgia trying to help the Senate candidates. It looks like we're going to be in kind of for the same deal. Let's just hope the outcome in Georgia is different. And I think it will be. I think in a straight up race, I think Herschel can win when the country knows that what's at stake is a Senate who can help the House stop Joe Biden and the crazy things that the left is now doing.
And that's what you all need, is you need that partner in the House and to be able to get that stuff through. Boy, oh boy, this is going to be tough. Congressman Jim Jordan, congratulations on your victory. We are glad that you are continuing to fight for voters, for Americans in Washington, D.C.
Thanks for all you do, Dana.
Of course. Thank you so much. Good to talk with you.